So what kind of culture shock was it after 8 months in Vietnam and then you're in Hawaii? I mean, was that just like,
Yeah, yeah. And the thing was interesting. Uh, that was during Hawaii's celebration of their statehood.
uh-huh.
I did not know that. Okay, I had no idea. And Judy and I were walking along the beach, and all of a sudden, all these explosions and fireworks and everything went off. And I'm laying in the sand because I've hit the deck. And about that time, I realized, well, you're in Hawaii. What are you doing down there? Well, it's reflex. And I was really embarrassed, but I looked around, and I was not the only one in the sand. There were guys all over the place that had hit the deck, you know. And the wives are sitting there looking at them like, "What are you doing down there?" You know.
Yeah.
But no, it was a nice break. It was. So I came back in. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning. The captain comes in and says, "Hey, you want to go home?" I said, I'm not scheduled to go home for another week or two. He says, there's an opening this afternoon. If you can make it, you can go home. Evidently, someone was wounded or killed, and that spot hadn't been filled.
Right.
And I said, I thought I got a whole bunch of my stuff on K, and I got to thinking about it. I said, well, I'll see what I said. I'll try. So he gave me the orders, and I packed my duffel bag and gave all my shit to one of the sergeants. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get? I flew out of Tan Son Nhut, I think is where I flew out of. How am I going to get down there? Because I didn't have enough time to get down there with in a truck or anything like that, any convoy. So I walked down to the aviation company, and I knew them because I flew with them a lot. I have 3 air medals. I got an air medal with 2 old-leaf clusters, so I did a lot of flying. And I went down there, I went in the pilot's lounge and said, hey, I can leave country today if someone can get me down to the airport. This one lieutenant looks at me, I could see he was thinking hard. He says, wait a minute. So he went in and talked to his commanding officer and gave him some bullshit story about his airplane had to have some extra work and they couldn't do it there, okay? What he wanted to go to the officers club and spend a couple of days at the officers club, you know. So he grabbed his stuff, we threw it in the 01, and that's a single engine plane. It's like a Cessna, whatever, 172. And got me down there. And I had a half an hour to spare to get on the plane. So I spent New Year's Eve in Japan, Alaska, then Seattle. That's where I was discharged, was Seattle. That was New Year's Eve. And then I hopped a plane. I was going to go to LA, but I decided not to, and it's a good thing I didn't, because the guys that were going through LA were getting harassed really bad.
Yeah.
So I took an overnight flight to St. Louis. I had to change the plane a couple of times to get to St. Louis. But anyway, New Year's Day, I walked in Lambert Field, met Judy, came home. So it was a major shock to leave there and end up in Lambert in less than 48 hours.
Wow. Yeah.
And most of the time I was traveling, you know.
And you taking military hops or commercial?
Commercial. I got orders for commercial, so I took commercial. And anyway, that's a big shock. And it takes a while. I would say probably 2 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get in school because school had already started. So I basically had 2-3 months. I had to find something to do. And so like the second day I was back, I went up to the VFW, walked in, saw the bartender, said, I'd like to join VFW. He looked at me and said, yeah, you need to talk to that guy there. This guy down the end of the bar drinking. I went down there and said, I'd like to join. And he looked at me and says, we don't want any of your kind here. Get out. We don't want you. And I looked at the bartender. He gave me that look like, sorry. And I just left. So that was the attitude at that time.
It's a climate of veterans coming back from the war.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you're lonely, you're by yourself. And the problem is, you know what's going on back there with your guys. I mean, you didn't come back as a group, you came back individually. So they're back there still fighting.
Yeah.
And that weekend, we had dinner up at her parents' house. And that was a real surreal experience. Physically, I was there. Mentally, I was not there. I was like the fly on the wall, looking at these people and couldn't understand why they weren't concerned about my guys, you know? They're talking about taxes or something like that. That's bullshit.
It just seems so trivial, I bet, to you.
One of the problems I had, I started getting letters from the guys.
Yeah.
And they tell me such and such got wounded or such and such got killed or whatever. And I couldn't handle it. I couldn't write them back. If I hadn't have been married, I would have stayed over there. A lot of guys went over, came back to the unit because they couldn't handle civilian life. Now, the problem with that is most of them within 3 months were dead. It's just that I don't know why. It was like a curse. You came back, sooner or later something happened, you know. And I'm getting a little broken up about it right now, just thinking about it. And it never leaves you. Some people say, well, it's been 50 years. You've forgotten about it. No. It's always back there in the back of your brain. And nothing may happen for 2 or 3 months, and then it'll hit you. That's like when I was driving here, I guess because of going through some stuff I went through to give you. I started to tear up a little bit because I was thinking about some guys, friends I lost. To me, not only did I lose some friends, but I have take responsibility for them because I was the person who sent them out where they went and where they died. I ran operations for half the company, and that was my job. And there was nothing I could do to help them or save them. But you have flashbacks, and you don't know what triggers them. There can be just thoughts. I see faces of some of the guys I've lost, and it try to keep it to yourself because most people don't understand what you've gone through. The worst flashback I ever had was on a golf trip. On the Memorial Day, we take a golf trip down to Kentucky. Everything's great. It's a beautiful day. We had a good round of golf. I think we're going to win a whole friggin' bunch of money. Everything's wonderful. And I was not driving, I was riding, and we went down the hill to the bus. On the opposite side of the bus driver had taken out the golf covers for the golf bags, and he had laid them out in a row. A lot of them were black. And as soon as we turned that corner, I saw those. And it was instantaneous. They were body bags. I was back there. I could hear the chopper. I could smell the jet fuel. What I was smelling was probably from the diesel engine on the bus, but still, I mean, and it just shook me to my core. I mean, 1 minute I'm having a great time, everything's wonderful, and the next minute I'm in a cold sweat, and I'm back in Vietnam, grabbing body bags and put them in helicopters. And that was the worst. That ruined that whole trip. I didn't tell anybody about it because they wouldn't understand. But anyway, that's what happens. And
we know it's taken you a lot to share this with us, and we really appreciate it.
yeah,
I hope it hasn't caused you any grief. You already said certain things trigger these feelings.
yeah,
This is one of them.
yeah.